Hello, this is Angela with Parker's Permaculture. I wish I had a better view for you today than a church parking lot, but it is the school year again, and that means that some days during the week I have to take my kids to classes. Now, we are unschoolers. I have a whole video about how and why we unschool, what that means. But that doesn't mean that my kids don't take classes. In fact, it means that my kids have the freedom to choose to take classes and workshops on the subjects in which they are heavily invested and want to explore more deeply. So my second daughter does mock trial. I'm going to brag for a second. Her team was state champions last year and went to nationals. And so that means we schlep all the way across town to the west side of Portland, out to Beaverton, for her to do mock trial. It's so important to her, but that means that I have downtime. And I tend to do things like go for a run and go for a walk. Obviously not today. I'm not in running clothes. Today I went for a 4-mile walk and then I had time to kill. So I usually bring knitting or sewing, or I work on a video or work on correspondence. Today I am working on knitting some dragon scale mitts. These are mittens that I'm going to have a pattern available for later in the year, and probably also a sale as well. So today I want to talk about contentment as resistance. Those of us that are homemakers know that in our modern consumptive society, our society that says that what matters is bringing home a paycheck, what matters is being a cog in the corporate machine. If you choose to homemake, if you have the ability to homemake, that in itself is a radical act. In fact, you should check out my video on Shannon Hayes' book, Radical Homemakers, my absolute favorite book on the subject of homemaking. Similarly, in permaculture, we are living in a way, we are thinking in a way, we are designing in a way that is very radical, in contrast to a culture that says what you need is to accrue more stuff. What you need is to take more and more and more, no matter how it exploits the planet, no matter how it robs other folks of their fair share. More and more and more, that will fill the empty hole inside of you. Permaculture says, I'm going to design intelligently, I'm going to design thoughtfully and sustainably, and I will know when enough is enough. Our society tells us that the more we work, the more productive we are, the more we matter, and the better our lives are. As someone who was raised Presbyterian with a very strong Protestant work ethic, I've had to push back against that a lot. Coming to accept that overproductivity is not a moral good, that it won't make you happier, that it is not better for our society, has been a long process for me. Look at what we're dealing with right now in our society, where we are seeing folks quiet quitting, which is just such a terrible term. They're working to rule, where they're saying, I will actually work the hours that I'm supposed to work and to my job description and nothing more. We're seeing a society that is starting to push back against the notion that you should be married to your job. You should sacrifice your life to your job. In fact, we're finding it's unsustainable. American hyperproductivity is unsustainable. In our hyperproductive world, our world where things are very expensive, where we're told to accrue more and more stuff, where just even our basic expenses are very expensive, it's very difficult to be a homemaker. We live in a 2-income reality to run a household, at least 2 incomes. I know a number of friends where they are all sharing houses here in Portland because just the cost of affording a house requires 3 or 4 incomes. In those households with a homemaker, the presence of a homemaker and the lack of a second income means that we cannot buy in to the American myth that more and more and more and keeping up with the Joneses is what we need to be happy. Likewise, the third ethic of permaculture teaches us fair share. I like to think of it as live simply so that others might simply live. That's a phrase that comes up whenever I look through the third ethic, whenever I think about it. What's at the core of it? If we have enough to meet our needs and take no more than that in a world that tells you you need more and more and more, those of us that start with the premise of fair share, of frugality, of less is more, we are better able to see from the get-go the ways our culture is feeding us a lie, the ways that what our society tells us is the path to happiness is a delusion, an illusion. It is a false hope. Saying I choose to orient my life around frugality, around homemaking, around volunteering, around doing work that is decoupled from a paycheck, that I am choosing to orient my life around the 3 ethics of permaculture, earth care, people care, and fair share, that is an act of resistance, because both of those lifestyles teach you to be content with less, teach you that true contentment does not come from the avenues our culture tells you it will come from. Let me give you an example. So we have about a 1,435 square foot house. We have no garage. We have 6 people. We have very worn, shabby floors. We have worn, shabby everything. The bathrooms need to be redone. Everything is worn and shabby. Meanwhile, my dad lives 1 block away. His house is more than twice the size of my house. It is 4-car garage with an apartment above it, like a mother-in-law suite or a carriage house. A yard that's much bigger than mine, a house that has been lovingly restored, that is very, very nice. And folks ask me all the time, like, why don't you just sell your house and, like move into your dad's house, or ask your dad or ask your siblings if you can buy them out of their share of your dad's house when the time comes, or whatever. Sorry if that's a little morbid, but it's a question I get asked a lot. Anybody who's seen a picture of my parents' house or knows what the inside looks like and knows anything about what my house looks like. Even my siblings have asked me, like, why wouldn't you want to live in dad's house over your place? Because I know that more will not bring me contentment. In the eyes of the world, why would you not want the big, gorgeous, restored craftsman with updated plumbing and electrical and heating, updated lighting, updated everything, carefully restored woodwork? Why would a huge garage when you have none now? Why would you not want that? And I could see how that's really alluring. That's really a draw. That's really a temptation. And for me, when I look at that big house, I think, well, my property tax is going to more than double when I move into that house. My heating cost, my cost to run the lights and run the electric in twice as many rooms, my cost to air condition the house, my cost of maintenance of the outside of the house, of the upkeep of the house, will be substantially larger than my costs now. Can I afford that? Will that mean that I have to stop homemaking? Will it mean I have to stop running Parkrose Permaculture in order to afford those bills? Go get a job in the rat race? How will that buy me contentment? My house is smaller. It's more worn. We love it. It's sustainable. It's affordable. It fits within our budget. More would just make me stressed out. I know for myself where the line is. Yes, that house is bigger and swankier, and the world would tell me, girlfriend, you should go get that house because it is everything that you should want. But for me, all I see is more expense and more stress, more upkeep, wondering how I'm going to afford the increased bills that house would bring me. So I'll stay in my little house and I'll be very happy with it. Contentment is essentially putting yourself in a posture of gratitude, a posture of saying, I have what I need to meet my needs. And I don't need to go chasing more, especially when more means taking more than my fair share, especially when taking more means that someone else will have to do without, especially when taking more means I will harm the planet in the process, especially when taking more means I will have less time for the things I find meaningful, the people I find meaningful, the relationships I value in my life. When we say enough is enough, that is a radical act. Resisting our consumer culture, resisting our exploitive culture. Our culture tells us to be discontent. And I'm saying here, I hope you can find a way to be content with what you have. And I don't mean a contentment that's like, put up with injustices, put up with not having enough to meet your needs. I mean the contentment that comes from knowing a simple life where you have what you need. You're surrounded by the people you love. You put your heart in a posture of knowing that what matters in life is the beauty of nature, caring for the planet, caring for other people in your life, appreciating the simple joys, honoring the fact that your needs are met. When you have that kind of a life, the way you are living, the way you are communicating to everyone around you is resistance against a culture that is a culture that is draining the life out of us, especially those of us here in America. I can't speak for folks elsewhere. A culture that is extractive by nature, that is consumptive. It is consuming us by nature. By telling us we need to consume more, our culture is actually consuming us, consuming our life hours, consuming the quality of our life, consuming our joy, our peace, consuming our ability to invest in each other. So I'd encourage you, what does it look like for you to embrace contentment? What does it look like to fold contentment into your earth care, people care, fair share, into your frugality, into your homemaking, into the way you are choosing to live your life in a more sustainable way? How can you speak to yourself and say, you know what? I am going to resist those little whispers in my ear. I'm going to resist the temptations that I know are feeding discontent. And I'm going to push back against them and say, I have enough. I have enough, and my life is full of joy. My life is full of struggles, but I know that what our culture is telling us will not decrease my struggles. It will only increase them. And I know that the way to live sustainably, the way to live responsibly, regeneratively, is to embrace contentment, knowing that those small acts of resistance have the power to transform potentially our whole culture. Permaculture says slow, small solutions. Maybe the folks around us, our family members, our peers, our kids' friends, their families, our coworkers, maybe they can see a different message through us, a different way of being. Thank you for watching today. I will be back more from outdoors in my permaculture garden next time, because I won't be stuck here in Beaverton. I'll be back more. Thank you again for watching.